Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Good morning. It is 8:07. News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are here to help you make sense of the news. It is Patrice Onwuka on this Friday before Labor Day, long Labor Day weekend, and I'm here to help take you into the weekend with Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, and I can't believe we're in our last hour of the show.
I'm telling you, time flies when you're having fun with friends. All right, at 8:30, we've got Stuart Whitson coming up. He's running for a special election to represent Virginia's 11th congressional district. There's going to be an election on September 9th. And if you didn't hear today's entire show, it is okay. We have got you covered. Download our podcast, WMAL's podcast, O'Connor and Company, wherever podcasts are found. You'll hear everything that we covered, including a great interview with Governor Youngkin earlier this morning, and we covered quite a lot on the Minnesota shooting that happened earlier this week. But right now, we're staying in Virginia. We're going to get to a really interesting story that's popping off here. Garrett Exner, he is a board member of Veterans on Duty, executive director of the Public Interest Fellowship, and he was appointed by Governor Youngkin to the Virginia Military Institute Board of Visitors. However, the Democrats in the Virginia Senate have blocked his confirmation or his appointment in a vote. I believe it was just yesterday. Garrett, it's so good to have you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, we'd love for you just to kind of break down the situation with these appointments. It wasn't just you, it was several others. And tell us what's going on and really what's the backstory here, because it sounds like there could be some retribution for, just kind of cleaning house in a lot of these Virginia universities when it comes to DEI.
That's exactly what's going on. So basically yesterday, 8 Senate Democrats continued their campaign to harm higher ed in Virginia. They voted to remove Virginians who, like myself, care about improving our educational system, and they did so for purely partisan politics. They're doing it as a retaliation against President Trump in his efforts to rip DEI out of universities to get us back to merit. So they're going to retaliate, and they're going to try to clean house at a lot of these universities and leave board seats open in the hopes that things will go their way later this year. And they'll be able to fill the universities and take them right back to where they were.
Well, yeah, but Garrett, you said it's partisanship, but it's really also ideology, because they've been disapproving, I think, almost every single one of Youngkin's appointments.
Absolutely.
And I know a number of the people that Youngkin appointed, and all of them are folks who want to basically stop the DEI and woke propaganda that has infected Virginia's state colleges, and Democrats want that to continue.
Absolutely. It is ideological for them. They are focused on getting rid of merit and rigor in schools. And many of us, have this shared understanding that rigor in your academic curriculum produces high quality outcomes. So we want high standards at our universities. We do not want to go back to a time where we're picking people based on the color of their skins or some other immutable characteristic of their person. We want to go for the best in Virginia and have the best schools so that we can produce the best outcome for our students. And ideologically, right now, it looks like the Democrats are very much opposed to that.
It's a shame that they're opposed to equal opportunity, equal treatment under the law, really equality. And I'm speaking as a Black woman here. It's a shame. Talk about, though, the VMI superintendent who was removed, Major General Cedric Wins, who, seemed to have been peddling a lot of this woke ideology. And he was removed. It was the Board of Visitors voted not to renew his contract. Is this also part of the story, the retaliation by the left?
So that happened before my time on the Board of Visitors at VMI. I will say I have a ton of respect for General Wins. I think he had a great career. I think he cares deeply about VMI. But I think when I talk to alumni of the VMI community, a lot of what they tell me is that the school is moving away from where it was when they were there. It's moving in a direction that's going to make it easier, that's going to lower the standards, that's going to make it less like VMI and more like any other liberal arts college in America. And I think that's what we saw for about 4 years, was this transition away from the VMI that produced George Patton and George C. Marshall, the VMI that produced our current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, one of the best military universities in the world, and it was moving in a different direction. So, the board made a decision on that superintendent, and they're trying to take VMI in a different direction now to get it back to what it once was. And I think there's some retribution here to say, you removed the person that we wanted to run this school, and we're going to clean house on this board until we get to have that pick, sometime in the future, which is really unfortunate.
I don't think parents. Look, I'm a Virginia resident. All three of my kids went to Virginia colleges. I don't think the residents of the state realize just how bad the universities have gotten, including University of Virginia, in terms of the DEI, the wokeism, the political correctness there. I have a friend whose daughter decided to go out of state, deeper into the South, because when they toured, for example, the University of Virginia, it was so bad that they were totally turned off by the university.
This is actually happening across the Northeast, across the Acela corridor, where you have students from all of these schools from Virginia north all the way up to Maine, students that are transferring and coming down to go to colleges down in the South because they know they're going to get a better education. If you look at schools like University of Florida with the Hamilton Center, Arizona State University set up a great thing called the Skettle out there, a school for civic engagement and thought leadership. Tennessee has some great schools that they're setting up. But basically, students from the Northeast are leaving to go down south to go to these schools because they want a real education. They do not want to be indoctrinated in kind of a woke ideology. And Virginia really has a decision to make right now. Governor Youngkin has done an excellent job trying to make Virginia the epicenter for great education. And what's in front of us in November is a decision to say, do we want to go back? Do we want to make Virginia more like Maryland, or do we want to make it more like a state that has high quality higher education?
Well, as a Maryland resident, I can say, please don't become more like Maryland. We're speaking with Garrett Exner here. Garrett, talk to us about the Youngkin administration, specifically Attorney General Mayaris. He has an ongoing lawsuit, about, what's going to happen with this situation. Can you shed some details or some light on these details?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically the General Assembly meets in the beginning of the year, and outside of that, you have what are effectively recess appointments by the governor. So governor appoints people, and until the General Assembly meets back in full session, they don't vote on appointments at any of the Board of Visitors at any of these universities. What they've done, the Privileges and Elections Committee down in Richmond has said that we're going to meet outside of the General Assembly, which they did in June, and they did it again in July, and they just did it this week. And we're just going to vote just 8 Senate Democrats in a 7-minute meeting, and we're going to throw out these appointments, even though they're made in recess. They got a judge in Fairfax County to back that case, and then we're moving forward, and it's going to go in front of the Virginia Supreme Court. Governor Youngkin is very confident in his case, and Attorney General Mayaris is very confident in his case in front of the court that they'll win out. This is unprecedented. This has never happened in Virginia politics before, where the P&E committee has just stood up and said, hey, we're going to reject these recess appointments, and then we'll deal with it later on down the road. So I think things will turn out right, but it's embarrassing for the state of Virginia right now.
Well, Garrett, thank you so much for your time. I mean, this is an important issue, and I think it feeds really well into speaking with the governor and some of our other guests today about the stakes in Virginia to push back against the legislature if the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the AG flip hands and get into leftist hands. Things will go even worse than that. Appreciate your time, Garrett. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.